מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר, בנאות אשר ירביצני, עמי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במעגלי צדק, ינחני במעגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי ילך בגיא המוות לא ירא, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, תשענת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ידפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר, אדוני רואי לא אחסר.
As Cantor began our service chanting Psalm 23 in the Hebrew, if you know the English, please join with me. The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Today we gather to share words of praise, words of honor, words of thanks, and words of love, as we recall with great affection Nina Frankel, a Holocaust survivor, a Holocaust hero, who remind us all never again is now. She was our teacher who recorded her testimony and shared her voice, her story, across Cleveland and online for the world to see. And today we recall Nina, Ma, Mommy, Lady, Grandmama, Grams, Nuna, a beloved daughter, a beloved wife, a beloved mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and friend. Though it's difficult to say goodbye, and we know Nina had her battles in life, today is a celebration of the strongest, most loving woman who overcame horror, tragedy, and loss, who lived a truly remarkable life, who built this most special, loving family. She was a gute neshama, as we say, kind and generous soul. She was indomitable, a fighter, proud and feisty. She was simply the best, a perfectionist who demanded perfection and to us all she remained that way till the end, and will always be remembered as perfect in our eyes. In our tradition, every Friday night, every Shabbos, there is a prayer that we say taken from our Bible in the book of Proverbs. It's called Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor and strength. And who better should we say that for than our Nina? Eshet Chayil miyimsa v'rachot mipnim mechra, batak balebala v'shala lo yaksar. What a precious find is a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband puts his confidence in her and lacks nothing. She's good to him, never bad, all the days of her life. She opens up her hand to the needy, extends her hand to the poor. She is clothed with strength and splendor. She looks to the future. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is filled with kindness. She oversees all the activities of her household, and she never eats the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her. Her husband praises her, saying, "Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all." Extol her for the fruit of her hand, and whenever and wherever people gather, her deeds will always speak her praise. Today we extend our deepest condolences to the Frankel, Moss, and Kahn family, to Nina's daughter, Melissa, and to Leonard, to her daughter-in-law, Lydia, to her son-in-law, Ken, and his wife, Jill. You were all her children. She adored you, and she relied upon you. To the apples of her eye, her grandchildren, to Jordan and Ilana, to Ariel and Sabrine, to Morel and Aaron, to Danielle, to Lauren and Erica and Adam. You were her everything, her life and her joy, and to the diamonds in her crown, her great-grandchildren, to Zoe, Adeline, and Emmett, the blessing not only to have survived, but to see a third generation carry on her legacy, and to the extended family and to all of us, her friends. And all of us believe that our Nina now rejoins all those who have gone before, too many to count. Her granddaughter, Elisa, taken from this world so young, now with her grandmother at her side. She returns to her husband, Leonard, a blessed memory, who she met and fell in love with in the ashes of the Shoah. She rejoins her two children, Anita and Michael, who so tragically left this world too soon. Not supposed to happen that way. A mother bury children and a grandchild. She returns to her parents, her mother, Hannah, who she looked after, cared for during the horrors of the Shoah, her father, Nathan, and all those in her family killed in the Holocaust. Our Nina rejoins all of them. She's back with them in heaven. Today we have very special tributes from her family. First we'll hear from her daughter Melissa, and then each of the grandchildren who we'll call up. So we'll call up her daughter Melissa first.
I am Melissa, the daughter of Nina and Leon Frankel, two Holocaust survivors. I am the youngest of my family, and I, too, am a survivor in my own right, as I am now the last one standing of my family of five. My dad, Leon, passed away while I was in medical school in 1985. He was forever the optimist in my family. My mom would yell at him, "Leon, if someone spit in your eye, you would say it was raining." My sister Anita was 8 years older than me and many times acted as my mother. Unfortunately, she passed away too young at the age of 47 in 2001. She had such a big heart and would even take me on her dates. My brother Michael was 11 years older than me, who sadly passed in September. And I'm still very raw from that. He was the one who took me to college, moved me in, and accompanied Mom to my medical school graduation while my dad had already passed. My mom lost her family at a young age, starting at 13, and really didn't have a blueprint for parenting. We worked together as a family to figure out what was best for us all. Michael and Nita even guided my parents into what schools I should attend. We were a bit of a different family, but I didn't realize that until the age of 11 when a classmate pointed out that my mom had an accent. We were tighter than most because we were all we had, no grandparents or a large family of cousins to play with. Bedtime stories consisted of horror stories of a little girl named Nina running through the field to escape from the Nazis, a girl who went to sleep with her mother by her side and woke up without her, never to be seen again. Yet, that little girl Nina persevered and somehow, despite being lost in a field, found her way back, yes, without a map or GPS, to the home of the people who promised to hide her. Life at home revolved around our kitchen table. It was the center of our family. We did homework around the table, we ate around the table, and we made major decisions together around the table. In fact, that kitchen table was the first thing I moved to her assisted living apartment. Following in her footsteps, I too have raised my family around the kitchen table. But again, I only recently discovered that that was different than everyone else when my daughter said to me, "Mom, you know it's not the norm to study at the kitchen table." Mommy, you shaped my life in many ways I'm still discovering. You taught me to be strong, and I see more of you in me every day. I feel strong being a woman that can take charge because of you. Growing up, I didn't realize that women didn't go to medical school because you showed me that I could do anything I wanted if I put my heart into it, and you never doubted my abilities. With all the good traits I've inherited, I've also inherited the trauma of the Holocaust. I understood that at assisted living, why you always had to have your back to the wall, as it allowed you to be in charge of your surroundings and have one side protected. Similarly, while most people understood the value of education and pushed their children towards that, we were pushed to education because we were taught that they, the infamous they, the Nazis, and anyone who may come after them to annihilate us, could take everything but our education. You taught me to give back and that helping others is a virtue. It is no wonder that my brother, my sister, and I all went to medical school, in the medical fields. As strong as and opinionated as you were, Mom, you were also so loving and caring and compassionate. You always said your greatest achievement and legacy was your family, and you were so right. You put your family first until the end. I truly believe you woke up that night after your stroke just so you could comfort me and give me the blessing of interacting with you. Although you couldn't talk, you repeatedly touched my face and patted me and smiled with your eyes. You had always been clear about the way you wanted to go, and in turn, you gave me the ability to tell you that you had a stroke, allowing you to let go if you wanted to. I thought that would be the last time we communicated. But in your last minutes, I whispered to you that Leon, Elisa, Anita, Michael, your dad, and your mommy would be waiting for you. And with that, you took your last breath and a tear rolled down from your left eye. Mommy, I love you, and I promise, as the sole survivor of our small family, to continue your teachings and keep the memory of the Holocaust and Jewish traditions alive Because if we don't, all the people before you, my grandparents, my cousins, all passed away in vain. Mom, you always said, listen to me. And Mom, I'm listening. Thanks.
Our next family tribute is from Jordan.
Let me tell you something. If you knew my grams and you heard those words, let me tell you something. You knew the argument was over. Even if you made a flawless case, grams, I don't need a haircut. It didn't matter. That afternoon, she'd book you an appointment with her hairdresser. My grandma was shaped from the ashes of the Holocaust. She epitomized resilience. If she had been born in a different era or granted the same opportunities as her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, I'm certain she would have founded a Fortune 500 company. Sometimes I had the privilege of tagging along on her errands, shopping at Mark's or going to the bank, where the tellers would greet her, "Hello, Mrs. Frankel. Hello." The usual. I was amazed at how many people knew her, and this made every outing an adventure. Beyond being her chauffeur, I was her editor. Grams only let a few people revise her prose, and I was one of them. During high school, I would drive over frequently and visit, and she'd say, "Sit, sit, eat, you're too thin," and a full-course meal would magically appear. As I ate, she would take out her papers. We'd craft letters together and document her experiences from the Holocaust. Even in college, I would get calls at 10:30, 11:30, 12:30 at night. My roommates would be surprised and ask, "Why is your grandma calling you so late?" And I would smile and reply, "Her evening is just getting started." From an early age, she taught me the value of education. She's the reason I learned my ABCs. We'd sit on the kitchen steps, playing a game she imagined with bouncy balls and a Sesame Street book. The only way she enticed me to play was by offering me a cup of coffee, or coffee, as I used to call it. Coffee became our bond. As I got older, the coffee-to-milk ratio slowly evened out. We'd drink coffee during sleepovers, while playing cards, watching the news, or listening to her stories. Did I ever tell you how I built my house? Well, first I went to the library and asked the librarian for books on construction. The librarian walked me over to the section on dollhouses. I carry so many memories of her with me. Her love will live on forever. L'adore vador, from generation to generation. My girls, Zoe and Adeline, are lucky to have had a relationship with her. They sing her song, her Yiddish song, Yeje Yeje Pom Pom, with glee to their baby brother, Emmett, and did so for her a few weeks ago during our Seders. I miss her deeply, yet I take comfort knowing she's been reunited with her husband, her 2 children, her granddaughter, and her family. that she lost in the Shoah. Grams, let me tell you something. I love you, and I turn over my glass for you. Your boy chick, Jojo.
Our next tribute is from Ariel, Morel, and Danielle.
Grandma, I don't think I did the best job letting you know how much I admire you. You taught me and showed me what it means to be a Jewish person in this world. From teaching me how to make your Passover cake, I still can't do it as well as you, to sharing your Holocaust survivor story, and to giving me words, or rather, phrases of wisdom. One of the phrases that has stuck with me most is, people plan and God laughs. When I think about your life and all you have endured, I see the plans you must have had for yourself and how that future collapsed before your eyes again and again. But I also know that you often quoted the phrase, when God closes a door, he opens a window. In fact, it was quite literally a window that you and your mom found and jumped out of, which you, even with your doubts in God and faith, described as a true miracle in one of your many escapes with death during the Holocaust. And I see that the life you built here, with all of your kids and grandkids, great-grandkids, in spite of the scars of the Holocaust and other life challenges, we were on the other side of that open window. With every life challenge, all those doors closed. I don't know how you found the courage and the will to see more, but you did. You found the window again and again.
And you showed us that one of the best ways to find that window was through wit and humor. There was a time that I went to visit my grandma right before I moved to Denver. And I was telling her about all the adventures I was so excited to have there. And so I started to ask her, have you done any really crazy adventures? And I was starting to list like really absurd things, like skydiving. And she goes very quickly, she goes, yes, I've gone skydiving. I was like, what? She said, yeah, with my finger on a map. I was with my dad and we laughed the whole car ride home. And not only did we recognize your sense of humor, but we knew how to kick it right back to you. I remember for several years, every time we would talk to her, she would complain about how all she needed was new legs because the ones she had simply did not work. You'd say, my mind works, but my legs don't want to go. That year on Hanukkah, Ariel had the great idea of giving our grandmother a new pair of legs. So we went to our basement and we dug out an old Barbie doll. We ripped off its legs and we wrapped it in a nice festive bag. She opened up the gift and immediately she pulled out the dislocated Barbie legs and burst out laughing. We had shared an understanding through humor, and albeit sometimes dark.
Grandmama, you were much more than a survivor. You were a liver. You found ways to live life as fully as you could, and in doing so, became the matriarch of our incredible Frankel family clan in Cleveland, Ohio. We're inspired by your bravery, resilience, intellect, and of course, humor. We hope to work to embody those traits of yours and live as fully as you did, and always, always look for the open window in the darkness. We're grateful to have the privilege of telling you, we're grateful to have the privilege of telling your story and your words of wisdom to generations to come. and we'll continue fighting for never again. Ja, kochem Chen, Grandma. Please give our dad an extra big hug and lipstick-filled kiss on your cheek for our shuffles.
Now we call up our last family tribute, Lauren, Erica, and Adam.
You have already heard much about Nina, her story, and her legacy. But most of all, she was our tireless grandmother. She was so many things, but she was incredibly proud to be our grandmother and always ensured people knew it. Look at my beautiful granddaughter, my handsome grandson, which is often how she would introduce us to perfect strangers. Let me tell you something. Once you start getting used to being introduced that way, it's very hard to go back. Often, it was followed by some sage beauty advice, such as you should tie your hair away from your face. But she was so proud, eager to look out for her family, share her opinion, and give advice. It's hard to sum up a person in just a few words, and so we each wanted to share a vignette that stuck out to us when we were reminiscing around our own kitchen table these last few days, each one of us remembering another funny, inspiring, and poignant moment. A few years ago, Grandma called me to tell me that she was down to the last few dregs of her favorite lipstick and wanted some help locating the same exact shade. Erica and I drove over there to her house on Hunting Hollow and sat amidst the towers and envelopes of papers, turning her lipstick over, this way and that, trying to identify the color of a lipstick that was older than each of us and potentially the two of us combined. After scouring the internet based on the remnants of the label, we determined that it was a retired MAC shade that no longer existed. We gently broke the news to my grandmother that the exact shade was no longer available, but no worries, we had a backup plan. There were some similar shades out there, we were sure, and we could take an adventure to Ulta, where Grandma could test out all the colors she desired. We left for the store, somewhat anxious and clearly overly optimistic. Surely Ulta, which had dozens of brands and hundreds of lipsticks, must have something close-ish. By minute 30 in the store, Grandma had every sales associate and both Erica and I under her authoritative command. Grandma was sat at the try-on counter in the middle of the store, and looking around, everyone, including some other shoppers, were shouting back and forth, fetching new coral, but more pink, not orange, lipsticks for her scrutiny and assessment. We left the store empty-handed after we were covered in swatches of almost identical shades that were still somehow not quite right. While we might not have had lipstick success, which, to be clear, Erica and I had a sense might be a doomed mission from the start, I will never forget laughing so much with Grandma on the way back, thinking how quickly she had put this entire store under her spell, with quite literally, again, the entire store and some shoppers running at her beck and call. Grandma had always aspired to perfection, would not settle for anything less than, but was always so quick to highlight the perfection, the good, the beautiful, in those that she loved. And she made sure you recognize those qualities in yourself, too.
I never had to wonder what Grandma was thinking or how she felt because she never sugarcoated anything for those in her close circle. She unfortunately learned from the Holocaust that friends were not reliable and would often say that friends won't tell you the truth to explain the reasoning behind her brutal honesty. Her honesty extended to gifts as well. Giving Grandma a successful gift was truly an accomplishment. Growing up, I saw numerous failed attempts at gifts or replacing broken items that she needed. Sweaters, blankets, slippers, a new mattress, glasses, lipstick, brown toilets, the list goes on. The reason the right gift was so hard to find is because my grandma, as you've heard, was a perfectionist. But on the other hand, if it was too nice of a gift, She wouldn't feel like she could use it, and it would meet the tragic fate of storage. I've had my fair share of storage gifts. Grandma was a prolific writer, and when I would visit her at her house, I'd find scattered bits of her survival story written on the backs of envelopes, in corners of catalogs, and on receipts. One year, I bought her a journal that I brought back from a trip to Cambodia, thinking she could use this for her writing. But the journal was deemed too nice and lived inside a drawer that was never opened. Just last year, I decided to try again at giving her a gift. I thought to myself, what's something thoughtful I can give her but has no functional purpose? I came up with the idea of making her a bouquet of crocheted flowers with a note attached so that she could be reminded of me even when I wasn't in town. She loved them, and I was filled with immense pride when I found she left the flowers as her kitchen table centerpiece at her assisted living apartment, something she would see every day. While my grandma's memory was short-term at this point, her opinions were reliable, and her witty humor always shone through. One time I visited, I was shocked to find the vase of crochet flowers filled with water. I said, "Grandma, these are fake flowers. They don't need watering." She laughed, smiled, and shrugged at me, "But they look better after I watered them." I tried to argue that there could be no difference in how they looked since they were fake, but she simply disagreed. In the end, we settled that the flowers looked better after she watered them, but she wouldn't water them again for my sake. I miss her already, and all her witty sayings, and the way she made me feel so special. I miss sharing my favorite Yiddish swear words with her, and finding ways to light up each other's days with the little things in life. I love you, Grandma.
What's cooking, Shefala? That was the proper response to my "Hi, Grandma," whenever I called, followed by a "Wait a minute, let me turn down the TV." No matter the time, even if it was after a late-night study session that ended at 1 a.m., Grandma was wide awake and ready to listen to anything I had to share. We talked about everything. Sometimes she'd teach me something about business, sometimes she'd tell me an old story from her vault of memories in exchange for a lesson I learned in school that week. Other times we'd talk about my girlfriends, which would always be followed by, "Make sure they're Jewish," and I'd respond with a resounding, "I will, Grandma." Even though she never went to high school, anyone could tell Grandma was a lifelong learner. She was curious about everything: geography, architecture, business, and of course history. She may not have learned in a typical classroom, but she learned through her adventures in life, and I'm so grateful she always shared that wisdom with me. She made it a priority to teach me about the Holocaust and her story and our history because she knew how important it was to remember. It wasn't something filled with hope or joy, but she still made sure I understood it. And yet, when it came to hard moments in my own life, she always told me to stay optimistic. Maybe that came from her resiliency, her strong will, or just the kind of strength she wanted to pass on. Either way, that always resonated with me, and it shaped me who I am today. And that's something I'm very proud of and thank her for. I often vent or kvetch to Grandma when I was frustrated, because she always had a way of flipping it into something hopeful. She'd point to the sky and say, "When God closes the door, he makes sure to leave the back window open." I'd laugh, and somehow that would turn my day around. But one time, I remember being so fed up that I asked her, "What if he closes the back window too?" She gave me the biggest grin, leaned towards me, and said, "Well, God can come through the smallest of things. He'll enter through the keyhole if he has to, and let you right inside." Then she laughed, hugged me, and told me everything would be okay. Lighthearted as they were, these grandma sayings always helped me see that the problems I faced weren't as overwhelming as they seemed. that they were things that I could handle. She shared so many thoughts and lessons over the years, and while I feel there was still so much more she could have taught me, I'm incredibly grateful for all that she did. Of everything she passed on, there are 3 things in particular that I carry with me and try to embody each day because of her. They are to welcome others with my, quote, beautiful smile, to face each day with an adventurer's curiosity, and to be strong-willed. I'll think of you always, Grandma. I know you'll always be with me, and whatever cooking up there, Shefala, I hope it's lovely. I love you.
This was Nina's favorite prayer. Le dor vador, le dor vador, le dor vador, nagid golecha, ule netzach netzachim, ule netzach netzachim, kedushat chanakdish, ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid golecha, ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushat chanakdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yamush le'olam v'ed, ki emek gadol, melech gadol, v'kadosh ata, ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid golecha, ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushat chanakdish.
Sitting with the family last night and for the last 20 plus years that I knew Nina, one thing was clear. Nina was the queen. Here in Cleveland, where Nina and Leon arrived as greeners, without knowing any English, without a livelihood, through sheer will, ingenuity, creativity, persistence, and determination, these 2 survivors built this incredible family through resilience and hard work, self-made. Nina taught herself English by reading the tabloids about Queen Elizabeth. She was enamored with the Queen, maybe because they were around the same age. So Nina fashioned herself as a queen, going by the motto, if it was good enough for the Queen, it's good enough for me. And to this family and to all of us, she wasn't only the matriarch, the one who oversaw everything, decided everything, and ran her roost. She was truly the queen. The family was her crown, and you made her life sparkle. Filled with wisdom, as you heard, heart, guidance, instruction, memories, everyone listened, especially at the Seder, when she had her very important parts, including, even just a few weeks ago, in every generation they will rise up, but they will not win. Unforgettable, indomitable, a formidable force. When Nina spoke, you listened. As the family told me, no one could say no to her. You couldn't compromise with her. It was her way or the highway, strong-willed, a perfectionist. She lived life on her own terms, and it was always just right. She'd say that we are the wealthiest people in the world. Because of our family, each of our children and grandchildren are like $1 million to us. Warm, funny, young at heart, curious, inquisitive. She was so smart. Somehow she could help Melissa write her advanced essays for high school, even though, as you heard, she was self-taught. She was street smart and savvy, using her charm to get her way. She had the innate ability to read a room. She had EQ, emotional intelligence, survival skills that both aided her during the Holocaust and helped her throughout life. Appearance was important to her, to always look good. One of the reasons, again, how she survived the Shoah, she was always dressed nice, and she always wanted you to look your best. For your simchas, the grandkids would show their grandma their clothing to get the sign-off, for she had very good taste. She was practical, always keeping tab daily on her stocks, with pages and pages of columns listing their status. A saver, an incredible saver. In fact, when the family moved out of the Heights, she herself went out to the country, undeveloped Pepper Pike. She bought a plot of land in cash with all the money that she saved, and then oversaw the work of the house herself. Not just learning from the dollhouse, she self-taught. She'd sweet-talk the workers, bringing them donuts or sandwiches, giving them a kiss on their cheek, in order to lure them away from bigger jobs of cluster homes that would give them a bigger payday, in order so they could work for her. And she always watched over them, making sure everything was just right. Born in Poland in 1926, she had a happy childhood, an only child, and her parents spoiled her. Nina, throughout her life, was creative. She loved the arts, loved music, singing, dancing. As a child, her father had a stake in a movie theater, or what she called the picture shows. And young Nina would sneak into the theater to watch. She especially loved Shirley Temple. She wanted to be Shirley Temple. And she'd watch for as long as it took to memorize Shirley Temple's dance routines. Then Nina, who taught herself how to tap dance, would become Shirley Temple and dance just like her. She also had a beautiful voice, would pass on that love of music and singing to her children, buying Michael a piano. She recalled the sweet times from her childhood, how much she loved her mother, how they would bake challah together on Fridays, and give tzedakah to the needy just before Shabbos. We know that Nina was one of the first to give voice to her experiences during the Shoah. In fact, she dedicated her life to sharing her story both here in Cleveland throughout schools, in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, on videotape, and then on the internet. She reminded us that never again is now, and I'll ask you to go to the website link from her notice so that you can hear once again in her own voice her miraculous story of survival, the horrors that scarred her life, and carry on her legacy and witness to share with others. Following the war, she went back to where she was raised. There were some pictures, bedding, and family pieces left for her. She carried them all around Poland in a big crate with her incredible stamina. She wanted to go back to school, but at 18 she had aged out. It was there that she met her bashert Leon. She was quite lovely and attractive, and he tried instantly to woo Nina. Thankfully for us, Leon was an incredible salesman, a natural salesman. So he sold himself to her. This was his plan. He brought to her a suitcase that was filled with money. And he asked Nina, "Can you please help me? I need to count all the money." Now this was following the Shoah when no one had anything. She was taken by Leon. They hit it off, would soon be married. At that point, he wanted to move to a DP camp for a better life. But she refused, saying, "I will not let them put me in another camp for Jews again." And so they eventually made their way here to America and to Cleveland, building their life and learning English. They were the perfect pair, as you heard. They truly balanced each other, their yin and their yang. He was a natural optimist, a positive force. The show hadn't taken that from him, always looking on the bright side, whereas Nina at times could be a pessimist. They each had their domain. He was in charge of the business, Frankel Brothers on Fleet Avenue with Uncle Itchy, and she was in charge of the home, although the truth is she ran everything, and Leon would do anything for her. All he wanted was for his Nuna to be happy, and as you told me, anything Mom wanted, she got. As a mother, she was protective, a warrior. She wouldn't let Michael play any sports so he'd never get hurt, but by the time baby Melissa grew up, she was playing field hockey and going on ski club. The best grandmother who you heard, your rock, your jokester, your fashion police, your personal chef. She loved you so much. You were her pride and joy. She wanted to know every detail of your life, how school was going, who you were dating, and if she'd meet one of your significant others, like when Iran met her, she'd say, "Nu, where's the ring?" Grandma loved you all so much, and she'd say, quote, "There isn't another family like this." A bala bush, she made the world's best chicken soup. She could literally make everything without a recipe. A little of this, a little of that, then she'd smell it, then she'd taste it to make sure it was just right, or she'd add something more. Her kasha varnishkas were out of this world. In fact, that might be the reason that Ken married Anita. On their first date, Ken came to the house. He was waiting for Anita to come out from her bedroom. And Nina happened to be making varnishkas, so she served him a huge bowl. And I think that it was history. Leonard, you told me that your first indoctrination into the family was a plate of Nina's homemade gefilte fish, made from scratch, of course. Throughout your life up until this moment, Leonard refused to eat gefilte fish, even his own grandmother's. But sitting at the Seder table next to his girlfriend, Melissa, Leonard was determined to make a good impression on Nina. And from that moment on, gefilte fish never tasted so good. The truth is that she was the best Jewish cook. No matter what she made, it was delicious. She set the bar high, as you told me, and even for Jordan, made eggless gefilte fish. Judaism was incredibly important, though she didn't necessarily believe in God after the Shoah. She had hope, she had faith. She loved doing Shabbos with the whole family. She loved Jewish traditions, especially Seder. You told me that when the family would sit together for Shabbat, that's when she felt her greatest comfort. She had her rules, like you could never be barefoot, always wear socks on your feet, or else you'll catch a cold. You told me about the glass turned over, which you mentioned, which could change your luck. And in fact, she had glasses turned over all throughout the house. And God forbid if you took one of those to drink. If any of the grandkids would call before a test, or they were worried about something, she'd say, "I'll turn a glass over for you." Where did she learn it? She was on a Pesach cruise, and someone mentioned to her, if you're going to the casino on the boat, turn a glass over and maybe you'll win. And guess what happened? She did, and that became her tradition. The truth is, you were always there for her. Melissa, you were her go-to for everything. You devoted so many years for caring for your mother. And Michael would call her every single night, no matter if he was working late, if he was traveling, on vacation, or even too sick to speak in the hospital. Somehow he called his mother every single night. Nina was a force for good. She molded this family to being so incredibly united, so caring for each other, because you are following that exact legacy that Nina taught you. You made sure that she was the queen, the matriarch, always with her dignity, always knowing how much she was loved till her last day. May her name only bring blessings, and we say, Amen. Arise now as Cantor leads us in the memorial prayer.
רחמים, שוכן במרומים, אמצעי מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהרים, כזוהר הרקיע, מזהירים. את נשמת שפרינצה בת נתן וחנה שלך לעולמה, בגן עדן תמנוחתה, העונה ברחמים, הסתירה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה, אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום המשכבה, ונאמר אמן.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Nina Frankel, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We can be seated. Following the service, burial will take place at Beit Olam Cemetery in Beechwood, and then the family will be sitting Shiva at the home 2517 Cedarwood Road in Pepper Pike, immediately following burial and until 8 p.m. today. Donations can be made in Nina's memory to Kol Israel and the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Amen.